I've met her. I've got to tell you, I wasn't frankly impressed as her abilities as a candidate.
Everything that he's saying is unfactual, and it's a shame because he's the same so-called political guru that predicted I wasn't going to win. And we won big.
That is Karl Rove versus Christine O'Donnell in the shocker of the political cycle.
And I've got to say, she's got a point. They didn't think she was going to win, and she did. Top Line begins right now.
Hello and welcome to ABC News Washington Post Top Line. I'm Rick Klein.
And I'm Jonathan Karl.
Every day at noon Eastern, we're right here bringing you the latest in politics. It's twitter.com/Rick Klein, twitter.com/John Karl. And John, wow, what a night. Huge end to the primary season. Kick us off, sir.
Blue Hen Blast, a shocker in Delaware. Nobody saw this coming. Christine O'Donnell, Tea Party candidate, has won, has defeated the Republican establishment there. Those graybeards of the Republican Party have been telling us this means that Senate seat is now lost for them, that she cannot win. But Rick, what do they know? They didn't see this coming. This is about the 7th or 8th time they've been wrong trying to back or at least support in some way a Republican nominee. And look, the Tea Party's got the momentum.
That's exactly right. And as you know, you minimize this movement at your own peril if you're in politics these days. Mike Castle, the latest to learn that lesson the very hardest of ways. Next up today, DeMint's DeMadness. Jim DeMint is probably the least popular man in the Republican caucus these days because his decision to back Christine O'Donnell gave her that late boost. It's one thing for Sarah Palin on the outside, but Jim DeMint, the South Carolina Republican who's actually a senator, would stand to gain quite a bit from Republicans taking over the majority. A lot of Republicans are grumbling today that Jim DeMint just shot Republicans in the foot, John.
Yeah, and he's done this in several races. I mean, he supported Ken Buck out in Colorado. He supported Sharon Angle. He has supported a lot of these candidates that we had been told all along by the Republican establishment simply can't win. He's been on the winning side of a lot of these. And the party leadership might be coming his way, though. You know, I was told point blank, absolutely, there was no way the Republican Senatorial Committee would give any money to Christine O'Donnell because she couldn't win. And what's happened today? John Cornyn has signed a $42,000 check, the maximum allowable, up to Christine O'Donnell. So they may be coming to Mint's way. Next up, New York Tea. Carl Palladino has defeated Rick Lazio, another Tea Party candidate, beating somebody who had been expected to walk away with the Republican nomination, in this case for governor in New York. And Rick, this guy said some out there things. He compared Obamacare to September 11th. I love this quote. Look at this. And he was asked if he stood by it today, and he said he did. Obamacare will be so horrific that it will kill more Americans through deteriorating health care than were lost on 9/11. That is the Republican nominee for governor in New York.
And of course, Andrew Cuomo still the overwhelming favorite in that race and would have been against Rick Lazio. What's interesting here, Rick Lazio is no Mike Castle. Rick Lazio is no raging moderate or liberal. He is a very conservative candidate. He'd been running to the right, but still he had the disadvantage of being a former congressman. Even a former congressman, it may be enough to see yourself washed out in years like this. And finally today, Fenty falls. Right here in the District of Columbia, Mayor Adrian Fenty has lost the Democratic primary to Vince Gray, a city councilor. And one of the big issues that motivated voters was education. Michelle Rhee, the school's chancellor, had been cleaning house in the D.C. public schools. A lot of folks may be complimentary of what he was trying to do, but I don't know that they did it in the right way to really communicate that. And there was a big backlash against that. And I think a lot of the schools' efforts that we've seen in D.C. and maybe in other cities may come to a grinding halt.
And a little footnote here, a victory for Marion Barry, the former mayor of this city. He backed Gray, and there he goes. Gray wins.
Indeed, and an interesting race all along. We are joined today by a woman who's been at the center of all this firestorm and just down from Delaware this morning. We appreciate her joining us. It's Amy Kramer, the chairman of the Tea Party Express, which got behind Christine O'Donnell and provided a lot of the late momentum. Thank you for being here. I want to start with this announcement we heard from John Cornyn. He did reverse course. He is now saying that he will support, the NRSC will support, and financially as well. But does Christine O'Donnell want that support at this stage, do you think? Does the Tea Party movement want the support of the Republican establishment?
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, any support she can get, she needs, but she doesn't need their support to win. I mean, obviously, no one thought she could win this. They were going after her with full force. I believe she was outspent maybe 10-1, and she still won it, and she won it by a big margin. So, she'd like to have their support, but it's not required. She needs the support of the people to win.
So what is the message that this race and the others we have seen, Alaska, Nevada, Colorado, what is the message being sent to Republican leaders here in Washington?
Well, they need to wake up and understand that, the people are engaged. They're tired of this out-of-control spending. This movement is a direct result of people's dissatisfaction with both parties, and they're not going to take it anymore. These seats don't belong to the Republican Party or to these states. The state parties, they belong to the people, and no matter how much money you can put into these races and the establishment get behind these candidates, you can't buy that fire in the belly and the passion, and that is what is enabling the people to go out and elect these true conservative candidates.
Sort this out for us, because the counter you hear from Karl Rove and others is, look, the most important thing Republicans do is get the majority. You can't get any of these things done unless you have the majority. If Mike Castle is better suited for the state of Delaware, and I think most of the polling has shown that at least, that he'd be a stronger fit against Chris Coons, what's wrong with saying, okay, we can live a little bit with someone moderate, because it's going to mean we can push a more conservative agenda?
Well, first of all, I don't buy that he's better suited for the state of Delaware. I mean, whoever thought that Scott Brown would win, and take a Republican take Ted Kennedy's seat that he had held for over 40 years. I mean, people have a very short-term memory. That was only 9 months ago, and that's the bluest of blue states. The thing is, when people go to the polls this election cycle, they're voting on the economy. This is not about social issues. And one thing that happened yesterday in the state of Delaware is they had a number of Democrats and independents showing up to vote for Christine O'Donnell, and they couldn't vote because it was a closed primary and they hadn't switched parties. So, this is about the spending. And don't tell me that, Democrats are for fiscal irresponsibility, because that's not true. They want fiscal responsibility just as Republicans do. This is not about sending Republicans to Washington. This is about sending conservatives to Washington.
Okay, so what about Karl Rove? I mean, he's been the Republican mastermind for the better part of the last decade, and he has been out hammering Christine O'Donnell, not just before the primary, but even now after she has won. He was out again today saying that she is simply not trustworthy and not a viable candidate.
Well, I haven't seen his remarks other than when you guys played them here. I've certainly heard about him, and I think that it's disgraceful. I mean, stop attacking her on personal issues. Let's, we need to all rally behind her now and work together going into the general. I mean, that's what we need to do, and we need to send true conservatives to Washington. I mean, Mike Castle has already voted for cap and trade in the House. He was a sure vote for cap and trade in the Senate, and that's not what the people wanted. The people spoke, and I think if anything, maybe Karl should stay out of it.
So why is he doing it? Why is Karl Rove doing this?
I have no idea. I have not talked to Karl. I have no idea why he's saying what he's saying.
I want to ask you about what the next phase is going to be even beyond November. I got one question via Twitter, and I think it's a smart one. What is Tea Party Express, what is the Tea Party movement going to do to hold these politicians accountable once they get to Washington? Now they're insiders. All of a sudden, the outsiders become insiders. What do you do to make sure that they're staying true to the principles that got them there?
Well, we absolutely need to hold them accountable. We're not just going to send them to Washington and back off. I mean, look, we didn't get here overnight. We're not going to change it overnight. It's baby steps, and these, it's taking this country back one seat at a time, and we are absolutely going to hold these people accountable for their actions, and they're beholden to the people that send them to Washington. They need to remember, just as we're reminding the ones that are already there, we hire them, we can fire them. They work for us.
All right, Amy Kramer, Tea Party Express. Thanks for talking.
Okay.
One last question, and John, I know you got to run, so go do your quote unquote work. But I
have to get back to work.
All right, go with that. One last question. I want to ask you about the finances of Tea Party Express. There's been some reports out there that you guys are kind of bone dry right now at the end of this. You've invested a lot in this. What kind of investment are you going to be able to offer, not just Christine O'Donnell, but other candidates this fall?
Well, I mean, we're going to have to regroup after today. We started out doing bus tours. We plan to do another bus tour. All of our funding comes from grassroots. We're a federal PAC, so we can't take anything over $5,000, no corporate money. So what we're able to do is going to depend on what we get from our supporters. But we're behind these candidates 100% of the way, and I know that the people are going to come through, and we're going to win some of these seats in November.
All right, Amy Kramer from Tea Party Express, thank you for being
Thanks
here. Right
for
out
having
fresh
me.
from Delaware. Great to have you with us here at Top Line.
Thank you.